Hey guys, Jobin here. This is a new Benchmade model 300SN. It's a new knife on the market, so I figured some folks would want a first impressions video and maybe, some views of it close up and in hand and so forth, so they can decide if they want to pick one up. Now, probably the main thing that's going to get this knife noticed is the fact that it's Benchmade's first model with a flipper opening mechanism. I bought it partly because I was curious about how they would handle that and how well it would work with an axis lock, and partly because when I first saw a picture of the knife, my first thought was, that is gorgeous, I want one. So I got one. Now, I'm going to shut up for a few minutes and just give you some good views of the knife, and maybe come back at the end with a few thoughts on it that I've gathered so far. Okay? Okay, now a few interesting things about the knife. One thing I find interesting about it stylistically is, even though it doesn't, to me at least, it looks like it has an upswept tip. It's a very interesting visual effect. This little cut here is concave. This one's straight, but with a swedge. The overall impression is that it has a tip sort of higher than it does, which I think it looks kind of cool. The handle is G10. Layered multicolored G10 with these little cuts in the side that show the stripes and give some additional traction. To get the flipper into the design, they had to do something kind of interesting. There's basically a cutout in it, so when the knife goes into the closed position, the flipper wraps around the lock bar, which is rather clever, I think. Pocket clip is tip up only, left or right hand side. And by the way, the blade material is 154 cm. So since this is the first flipper, how did they do? Well, I don't really want to get into review territory since I've only had the knife for less than a day. My overall impression though is, I've used better flippers, I've used worse ones. And I think, while I hesitate to say for sure at this point, if it has a fault, I think I can demonstrate it really quickly. Okay, this is a CRKT Ken Onion design. And with a flipper, if you a really good one, if you push on it really gently, absolutely nothing happens. So you push a little harder, tiny bit harder, and that happens. Boom, the blade opens all the way. Gentle push, nothing. Slightly more than gentle, all the way open. It's basically impossible to push on the flipper of this knife and get it to open partially. It just doesn't do it. Here's what happens if you push really gently on the flipper of the Benchmade. I think maybe, I think they made a good try at balancing it right. This lock isn't quite suited for that, because if the axis locks have a fault anyway, it's that they have very little detent, so the force required to start the blade moving is very low, which isn't really conducive to a flipper. So with this one, it seems to me like to get a positive opening every time, you have to give a little bit of a wrist flick if you're using the flipper. That's a little exaggerated there, that's more than you have to do, but I'm just showing it for the camera. If you keep your wrist completely still, it can be... There, got it. But see, that's silly. I kind of had to concentrate to do that. You're not really going to do that. Bottom line, the flipper works, but I've used better ones. Overall, I'm very pleased with the knife so far. I still think it's gorgeous, and it seems like a pretty practical design. Oh, one thing I did notice, if you have large hands, there might be a hot spot right here. I haven't used it extensively, so I don't know for sure, but it just seems like this might end up hitting my pinky. I don't have especially large hands, they're a little bit above medium size probably. But the grip feels very comfortable and secure, and I'm pleased with it so far. Like I said, haven't used it much. Just for a quick size comparison, by the way, here's the Benchmade Mini Griptilian. So it's not an extremely large knife, but it does feel, it fills your hand more. It's got a more solid feeling handle than the little lightweight Griptilian Mini Grip. Alright guys, that's about all I can cover with the first impressions video. I hope you enjoyed seeing the knife. I will probably do a review of this after I've had the opportunity to actually use it. But anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and remember where your knife is.